and welcome to another Writerly Witterings with me, Michael Jex, the tea drinking author who's not got even a cup of coffee today. I've just finished it, so never mind, you'll get used to it. Louise, very generously, a little while ago, sent me a box. Here is a box, and in the box there were two little bottles. These two. And in those bottles there was ink marked with an A and a P. And I've got to remind myself what the P was because I've forgotten again. This is a problem I find I am having more and more often, which is I've got no memory. So we have A for Aurora and P is for Platinum. And the main thing about both of them is they are sepia inks. And the reason why was I was chatting the other day about the Diamine Sepia and how much I liked it. And she said, well, have you tried the Aurora? I said, actually, no. And she said, I will send you some. But then because a package with just one little bottle of Aurora didn't seem to her like very good use of her postage, she sent me the Platinum as well. And she sent me an ink cartridge for a pilot, which is in here. So I've got these three lovely inks, and I thought it would be fun to compare those three with also Diamine again, and then also, just for a comparison, to compare all of those four with KWZ's Honey. So that's what this is all about. Now, if you enjoy this video, don't forget you can go to the bottom and you can click the like, and it takes you very little time, but it does mean that it moves my videos up the charts for dear old YouTube. So if you could do that, I'd be very grateful. And apart from that, let's get on with it. And here you will see a number of different inks having been used. Now, I always used to record actually writing with the inks, but I think that's not so relevant. It just takes time. So first of all, let's go to the Pilot Namiki here, which is a gorgeous ink. And in fact, I did have some before. Now, what I always do is I tend to use this, which is a TWSBI Go with a 1.1mm stub nib, which is jolly useful because it means I can compare each of the inks alongside each other. Now, I couldn't do that with the Pilot Namiki because this is an ink cartridge designed for a pilot. But what I did find is that some time ago, someone else gave me some ink, and this is Sepia from Platinum, which is a very pleasant colour. What I would say is it's quite similar when you use it in a fine nib to Scabiosa, and also quite like Diamine's Dark Brown. Here we have Diamine Dark Brown, and you can see that that and the Namiki are quite similar. I like this sepia. It's got a sort of reddish berry type tone to it, which does work very well on the page. This is Aurora. It's actually sepia from Aurora. But when you're like me and a bit doddery and ancient, you get these things wrong occasionally. It ran through my TWSBI Go beautifully. It was very, very pleasant, worked a treat, and looks very good on the page. Then we come down to the Platinum version. Now, I think it's possibly fair to say that we should be looking down at the bottom here, where it's a bit darker. But I think that's a gorgeous colour. I would certainly be very happy to go with that. Lovely amount of shading, good colour. Again, slightly more reddish than down the bottom here when we go to Diamine Sepia, which is still one of my favourite inks. I just love it. I love the shading, I love the colour itself. I think it works very well. But I know a lot of people are really much more keen on this, which is the KWZ Honey, which is quite a sepia-ish colour, very good shading, smells lovely, smells a bit of coconut, I think it is, but it's got a slight green tinge, I think. That could just be my eyesight, which is a bit dodgy, but certainly the Diamine Sepia is much more orange. I think the Platinum is a little more sort of brownish, possibly a little red. The Aurora is much more red to my eye than possibly is showing up on this camera, which is quite irritating, but never mind. But it is a lovely colour. And the Pilot Namiki, it almost looks like a purple on the page in front of me. I don't know if that's a valid comment. If I come here, in the flesh, it seems to be a lot more pale than it shows up as here on the camera. I may have to tweak the video when I get into editing it. But all of them perfectly lovely, and I'm very, very grateful to Louise for these top three. The Pilot Namiki version, the Aurora Sepia, and the Platinum. All of them really very pleasant. Lovely amount of shading and very interesting colours. I'm not too sure if they'll show up slightly better in their colours here because there's a bit more daylight coming from that direction. Certainly when I was looking at them through my camera, the colours seem to be a lot darker and flatter, but I hope you can see there that in fact they're really very interesting. This certainly shows up as a much more purple colour. That's a very dark berry colour, I would say. The Platinum version is more of a brown, whereas the Sepia from Diamine is more of an orange. KWZ is slightly different again, much more equivalent to the Diamine Sepia. But what is interesting is you can also see with these inks, not the top one unfortunately because that's from a different pen, but all the others are from the same pen, same TWSBI. And it's interesting to me that you can see that the Honey from KWZ flows much more well, it looks as though it ends up fatter on the page than the same nib using Sepia from Diamine. Likewise, the Platinum looks to put more ink down with the width of the nib, and the Aurora doesn't seem to put down quite so much. It's very interesting how the different inks react, even though you're using the same pen, the same nib, but they don't look as though they're working the same way. I should just say, for those of you who haven't seen one of these Pilot Caplists, this came from Chris. Thank you very much, Chris Curtis. And it's a wonderful pen to use, especially for note taking. It's got quite a fine nib. It writes superbly well, but I must admit today, putting the ink cartridge in was the first time I've ever tried to put an ink cartridge into it. I've always used it with the cartridge converter. One thing I would say, if you haven't ever used one of these, just be aware that the ink cartridge goes in the way you would not expect. The big fat end, which I thought was the cap where they'd filled the ink and then just blocked it off, is the bit that actually goes down there. I spent ages trying to get that little narrow end into the pen itself. It was only when I looked at a YouTube video to see if I was doing something wrong, I realised I was putting the cartridge in the wrong way round. Just goes to show that YouTube is useful and I'm a bit of a Burke. Anyway, hope that was interesting. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you do like the video, please hit the like button. And don't forget, you can subscribe. You can buy me a coffee if you want. You can do anything you want, really. There's lots of different options. And if you're interested in my books or anything else, please go to michaeljex.co.uk, where you'll find a list of all of the different titles. You'll find the different lists of books by their series. So there's the Blackjack series, the Reluctant Assassin, there's the Vintner trilogy, there's the Templar series, all the different ones are there. And I'll be very interested to talk to anybody who contacts me through that. There is a contact button. And if you're interested in getting a newsletter about my books, you can also ask for that as well. And you'll then receive a newsletter every couple of months or so. I don't intend doing it more often than that. I have got Patreon already. I have got social media of all sorts coming out of my ears. I'm still trying to learn how to use Facebook after being on it for 10 or 12 years. But it doesn't make any sense the way they've set it all up now. But that is it for now, apart from a little video of two dogs, which I took this morning while I was out for a walk. And these were taken, these short videos, just to show what the views are like from some of the lanes around here. And they were taken before the Bernese Mountain Dog pup rolled in something that was absolutely disgusting. So as soon as I got back, she had to have a shower. That was fun. Enjoy. Take care. I'll speak to you in a week's time. Cheers.